Welcome to The Hookup. My name is Crochet Zaddy, your host and fellow craft enthusiast, and this is your weekly dose of crafty conversations with your favorite crafty content creators. Hey friends, just a little disclaimer before we get into the video. My guest has recently announced that they're likely to be changing their name in the near future. I do refer to them as their previous name because this was recorded like a month or so ago. Which I have reached out to them about, and they said it's fine for me to be doing so, but in the future things will likely change, so let's just pretend that if you're watching this now or in the future, that we are using their new name. And yeah, if you can't get your head around the idea of people's identities changing, names, pronouns, whatever, grow up. Anyway, on with the video. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. We're in episode 2 with our resident guest Emma from Made in the Moment and Emma in the Moment, and we are exploring our next topic, which is getting into the crafting drama and exploring the landscape is the title I gave to this, which I don't really know what I mean by that, but we're going to explore this landscape, baby.
Yeah, let's explore it.
So the first question to just kick us off is, your channel has gained attention for discussing crafting drama. What motivated you into delving into this aspect of the community?
I think a lot of it was just like finding the you can call them dramas, but they're not all drama, you know, drama is a bit of a niche term, I guess, but like,
how would you define drama?
I don't know, just something happening and people talking about it. I don't really know. Like, I guess like drama has different layers where it's like under the umbrella of controversy, but drama can be like fighting between two people, or it can just be like a thing that people are talking about, like a topic of conversation. And I feel like those are kind of different, but they sort of both fall under the umbrella of drama, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know, really. I don't know if that made any sense.
I kind of understood, but what I understand is that you're not necessarily talking about drama. You're talking more about like crafting. Was it craft, like the news, top stories?
Yeah, it's like, you know, when you go on like a news channel and there's like celebrity news, where it's like it's news because something happened, but it's not like news in like it's like a serious thing. So I guess I'm just nitpicking the terminology here to avoid answering the question because I don't really know what my answer is. But I guess like I'm just interested in a lot of these stories that I'm talking about. And there were stories that were happening prior to me making this channel that I was interested in and wanted to talk about and didn't really have a place to talk about them. And I did make, I made a few TikToks kind of around some sort of controversial issues, I guess, before I'd started this channel. There was the We Are Knitters Zara collab, and I made a TikTok talking about that. Yeah, remember that?
Why did they do that? That was so weird.
It was really weird. Yeah. And, what else? Hope McCauley had those really expensive hair bows, and I made a TikTok talking about those, and then
the
she
cancellation
down.
The cancellation of Hope McCauley that you led.
Yeah, I accidentally. Well, the crazy thing is, like, I don't know. I really respect her a lot for like a lot of what she's doing.
Yeah.
And so it's a shame that was like such a successful canceling campaign, because that was not my intent at all. My intent was just like, hey guys, look at this thing. Don't you think it's kind of crazy that like she's selling a crochet chain for $80 or $84, whatever it was. And yeah, so I've accidentally made an enemy there. Like I really didn't mean to. Like, you have to believe me. I think it's cool what she's doing. I think it's always cool to see like a women-owned small business. But anyway, there was that, and probably some other things. But
the point of that story is just to raise your prices, everyone. We can all.
Everyone, yeah. Raise your
know
prices.
Your worth.
Know your worth.
It's $80 a chain. That's what you need to know.
And if someone calls you out for it, stand your ground. Like, you set the price. You can just be like, who's this random person talking about my product? Like, who cares? I'm just gonna sell what I'm selling. So yeah, I don't know what my point is there, but basically, yeah, I've just like been interested in kind of sticking my nose into all of these stories, and that's what inspired me to get started on the YouTube channel.
Because I think I can't remember the quote exactly, but I try to quote it to other people when I'm talking about your channel. And you say there's just something so good about the mix of people in the crafting world being a bunch of young liberals and older conservatives getting together and unifying across the drama that is caused probably because of this mix, as well as
Yeah, it is just like it's a very interesting mix of people, and I've been I have a Patreon episode where I have a Patreon podcast, and one of the episodes is me like trying to figure out or giving my theories on why knitting and crochet has so much drama specifically. And one of my theories is that like people just have so much time to sit while they're doing it. And it's like, yeah, it's like time that you're sitting, and it's also like a very portable craft. So it historically has been like a very group activity, where like you have like these knitting circles of people who are sitting around working on a project, and like what are they doing? They're talking. If you talk to anybody for long enough, you're gonna start finding out little things about them and finding out little bits of like tea and drama about their life, and then you're gonna go tell someone else, and then they're gonna be like, oh my god, did you hear that, like Sally said this about Victoria? And it's like, no way, I heard her husband said this,
like the way I always describe it is like if we're all working in the same office building, right? And you have the different like little teams and departments and whatnot, but like everyone knows the gossip about each other. So you might have the little like Goodomy department, the knit raglan department. I don't know, but like they were like, oh my god, do you hear what's happening over in like the plushie toy area? Like
there's enough crossover from people just like being friends with each other that it's so interesting. You have these like really small, there's this big community with all these small little factions or sectors inside of it that all have very specific, ways of doing things, or I don't know, like it's very interesting.
so when you started the craft YouTube, Emma in the moment, not craft YouTube, the craft drama YouTube, Emma in the moment, that was purely focusing on the dramatics of it all. Not necessarily drama, but we're going to use the word drama for the sake of it. And so did you have like many stories prepared or things you wanted to feature?
No, not really. I mean, I had sort of that like list that I said, like the We Are Knitters and the Hope Macaulay stuff and the Hey Hey Crochet video that I made. And then what really like kicked it all off on that channel was the Tay Beep Boop Car and Joy story that I covered, because I happened to get in on it like really early because, Karin crochets and we were mutuals, not anymore. But yeah, so this like big dramatic thing was happening on TikTok where like both of these TikTokers had millions of followers, and it was the kind of thing that like like established drama commentary YouTubers were making videos on as well. But because I had that like crafting community I had heard about it a little sooner, and just like happened to get on the story at a good time. And yeah, I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, but I put together a video and people watched it, and yeah, just kind of went from there. But I didn't really have like a long-term plan of like, these are going to be my first 10 videos and this is what I'm going to do.
When you make the videos, are you a little bit nervous about what the public reaction would be? Like, is people going to run out with like the torches and pitchforks and things? Or how do you go about managing the community and not reacting like that? And because in my mind, you keep things very factual and you try to seem very unbiased about it. You're just the deliverer of what's going on.
Yeah, I do my best to do that. It's something that I'm like very conscious of because, and all of my videos obviously have a bias in them because I'm a person. And when I'm looking at the information, I'm going to pull out the things that stand out to me. And in doing so, present a somewhat biased presentation of the facts. But I do think it's important to not play both sides, because that's not always what it's about, but just like give the information instead of being like, look at this person who did this, aren't they so stupid, we should all laugh at them. Because I don't think that's not what I want the videos to be about. And I think it's easy for someone to interpret a channel like this as like, oh, you're just stirring up drama, like you are the problem and you're making all of this something it's not. But I think when I research and when I write the scripts, and even more so now than like when I started out, I do try and get as many different sources as I can to put together a full picture. And also just like making sure to remind people verbally in the video of like, don't go to this person's Instagram page and leave comments on their most recent post, because it's just not productive, it's not helpful, you're harassing them. And I don't want to be the reason that you feel emboldened to go to their page and call names or say rude things, because you know all these things that are happening, like most of the stories that I cover, like the problem is that someone is being just like a little bit shady or like a little nasty or like a little rude. Like nobody deserves any bad comments, but like certainly not a lot of the people that I talk about, where it's just like, it's a he said, she said, this thing, whatever. It's like, don't go post on their page, just leave them alone.
Yeah.
And we can look at this and learn from it and stop acting like this in public, you know?
Do you often have conversations with the people involved for the videos, or are they? Yeah, what happens there?
It depends, but generally no. For a variety of reasons, sometimes I would reach out and not hear anything, but most of the time it's just like the story that I am presenting is the story of what has happened publicly. And it'd be great to hear their perspective, but at a certain point, it's like they've kind of presented themselves in this way as, on their professional Instagram account. And so that's what we're seeing. I have talked to people in the past, like with the Stardew Valley crochet pattern one. I did reach out to the designer, and that was great to like kind of hear their perspective on things. But yeah, it's just sort of for a variety of reasons. I haven't talked to everybody involved, but it is always nice when I can.
Yeah, because I guess it would also like bring along a bit of bias as well, because once again you're being like, they said this. Like it's their opinion on the matter. It's not really what happened. It's now become evidence in the story, I guess, or like a part of the story of that's where they're finalizing their viewpoint or something.
And there's a part of it too of just me not being sure what's appropriate to ask. It feels like something where, like, if you're a journalist and you're writing an article on something, it's appropriate to reach out to someone for comment. For a while, it didn't feel like that's something that I should be doing, because it would come across as like, maybe I'm just trying to get more content out of them or whatever. But yeah, so I don't know, it's a tricky thing. It's a tricky thing to figure out.
I was gonna say, you're not really a journalist though.
I'm not, no.
A commentator.
I'm just commenting on what's happening. And a lot of that's a tricky thing too, because people see the structure of things and they think that there should be journalistic structure or whatever. But I don't know. I'm writing a script and talking about something.
I'm just a commentator.
I'm just a guy.
My favorite quote. So, but with that, how do you maintain like the positive side of the community, or even aspiring to have like a positive community reaction? Or
I mean, I don't know what it is. I feel like I've been really lucky of just like having really this positive community around these topics that can be really negative. And, of course I get negative comments too, and I get negative feedback as well. But for the most part, like overwhelmingly, people are very civil and very polite and very, trying to structure any criticism they have in a constructive way, or in like coming from like we're having a discussion sort of, and not like I'm attacking you and how you're so stupid for thinking this or whatever. And I don't know it's something that I'm really happy has happened. I don't think it's something that I really could have controlled if I tried to. But I hope that the way that I present the information has encouraged people to respond in a similar way of, responding to specific criticisms or concerns or points in the video and not just being nasty.
With what you're saying about what you've got in the comment section, it sounds like you're doing it right. Because from my experience of reading Craft Snark over on Reddit, people love to run away with whatever story they've made up in their mind. Like, there'll be a post, and even I had this just recently about myself, where people read the post, then they interpreted it in one way, and then they were just like, and they just ran with it and were just like saying the most vile things. I was like, oh my God, like,
Relax.
chill out. Yeah, it's like, it's not that deep. Like,
yeah.
So I'm surprised it hasn't really happened in your comments.
I mean, it does. It definitely does. I just think I would just say like the overwhelming majority is positive comments, and the more negative ones. I mean, I don't read comments anymore because it's, all the nice ones, and then there's one that's critical, and it like sticks with me, and I'm very sensitive in that way, where it's like, yeah, I know I'm putting myself out there to receive criticism, but sometimes it hits a little too hard. So that's something that's helped me personally, but because it's such a small volume, it's not something that I feel like I need to really be, on top of in the way that like most people are being very, very civil and very,
Because I remember I watched part of your interview with Arena over in Fiber Chats. Shout out, Arena. I remember you saying that like there's some topics that you find very difficult to talk about, and it's just like do you get this kind of sense of almost like a reluctancy with a lot of the videos?
Yeah, I think it's sort of this sense of like, how could I possibly cover all of the things that I think I should cover if I'm going to talk about this? Of like, it's very easy for someone to watch a video and be like, oh, well, you didn't talk about this thing. And it's like, well, yeah, because I was just like, I'm trying, and there's like so many things to talk about. And any story I cover, you could say there's probably 10 things that I didn't address that like you think that I should have addressed. And that's just like the nature of any work that you publish and put out into the world, is like there's always going to be a gap of knowledge or a gap of scope, because that's how everything works. You can't possibly cover everything. So yeah, there are stories where like I'll start working on the script and then I hit a wall, sort of, where I'm like, there's too much to read and I just need to like put this away for now and come back to it with fresh eyes in like a month. Or I get to a point and I'm like, all right, we're talking about, one of the big isms, and like, do I have the literary and historical background to really cover this to the extent that I want to be talking about this? And like, what's really like my thesis here? What's the point? Like, am I just trying to tell this story? Am I trying to make a larger point about capitalism? Am I trying to start a discussion? Like, what is it? And yeah, I think the more I go, the more sense of responsibility I feel with that. And the more I want to make these like really interesting, sort of dense conversation starters. But then that's just like so much pressure. And so I'm trying to find a balance of like doing more fun, lighthearted videos that don't involve that much reading and like academic pressure for a YouTube video. But yeah, it's, that's kind of how I feel about that.
I could imagine that becoming so tiring as well, having to do so much reading. I mean, having done postgrad, it's like watching people cry in postgrad is just a thing you will like. I think is that the same over there? People just like bawling their eyes out. It's just the weird and worrying trauma experience in academia, and I don't know, it kind of changes you a little bit. But I could not imagine myself doing so much more academia since finishing. So
Well,
kudos
and
to
that's
you
what
for
I
staying
said too.
strong.
So
Nice.
that's why I was like, I'm not going to do a PhD. I'm just I'm just going to do really dense research heavy YouTube videos instead, I guess.
Yeah, because do you have a favorite video that you've done?
No, I mean, it's like I have
Can't
favorites
choose.
for different reasons, you know, like
Okay,
I think my Mystical Creations yarn one is just like a classic, but
I
the
love that
story
one.
really carries that one. Like I I did, you know, I did go through all the Ravelry stuff, but like I don't know, I just told the story and the story is so riveting. Um I think my knitting.com one is really funny. I think that one turned out really, really well. Jada edited that one. I love the ones that she edits. Um, and yeah, I mean all of them, I put so much work into them. I have like such I could give you like, oh, this is my favorite one for this. This one has my favorite skit. This one has like this little bit that I like.
Say the Hawaiian roller coaster ride rendition by Jada is one of the funniest moments
Amazing.
of all
I
your videos.
feel
If not the
I
funniest.
feel so guilty that people think that that was me. I got so many comments that were like, "Oh my god, Emma, that was an amazing cover." I'm like, "Oh, thank you. It was all Jada." And I did not ask her to do that. She sent me like a text that was like, "I'm doing something really funny in your video," and then sent me the video, and that's what it was.
You know, like I fully know Jada is doing that between playing Fortnite, and she'll have like Aiden and Crawford on the phone, and she'll be like,
Yeah,
"Should I do this? Would that be funny?" And they're like,
yeah,
"Yeah, do
do
it."
it.
She'll be just leaning right into it. Like it'll be like 1 a.m. in her house with her microphone being like,
She's like crouched over her
yeah.
desktop setup. Yeah, no, that's exactly the pose that she sent me the text. She sent me a picture of herself, like in that pose, wearing her snuggy like hoodie blanket thing that she
Yeah.
wears.
Partner's
Yeah,
asleep in the
so
background.
exactly. Yeah, the cats all over.
Oh my god, it was so good. Do you feel like you've actually created because I feel like you've had a very, very strong impact on the crafting community history, just generally, which is kind of fun to think about. Do you feel like you've brought the community together in some kind of way?
I hope so. I mean, I that would be cool. I don't know. I feel like it's hard to say from where I'm sitting, like what kind of impact that the videos have had. And it does feel like the kind of thing where like as time goes on, we'll see sort of, but I hope so. I think something I think is really cool is the way that like the videos can connect sort of some of the gaps in the community that I see of like sort of what we were talking about of like the like younger, maybe more liberal or more progressive crafters versus like older crafters. And you know, getting comments or messages from people that are like, I watched this with my mom and we like crocheted together and then we talked about the video after, or like me and my husband watched these videos together and like we love every time you upload, we sit down and watch it together. And just seeing the collision of worlds, I guess, in that way, where like maybe two people who watched the video wouldn't ever have connected otherwise because they make pieces in such different styles that they wouldn't have overlapped or something like that. But that's something I've seen that's really just like so cool to see that people can unite over, you know, everybody loves to like gossip and chat and hear what's going on.
Yeah, and even like my friends who don't craft at all, they like one of them was so obsessed with all your videos. He went through and he watched every single one. And he was just sending me messages throughout the day, being like, "Oh my god, like these people are wild. Like, why are they doing all of this?" I'm like, I don't know. It's the craft community. Like, do you think people are just like, I mean, okay, no, I was gonna say, do you think people are just dramatic in the crafting community because I mean, you mentioned it before, like because we sit down and we have nothing else to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that, but I think it's also just like if you looked into any sort of community, you would find drama like this. And another thing I talked about in the Patreon episode, to bring it back to that, is that I don't know if it is, it's hard to say if it's like a nature or nurture chicken egg kind of thing, but like for some reason, people in the knitting community are really, really good at documenting things. And I think it's because of like having to follow detailed patterns. So it's like either knitting draws people who are already really interested in documentation into the craft, or people who are okay at documentation have better skills because of the craft. But like the Ravelry comments that I read, like the write-ups that I see on Reddit, and like all of these, there's just like really beautifully written blog posts and like this incredible documentation, like historical documentation of what's going on. And that is, I feel like that is a huge source of knowing what's happening and being able to track the drama of what's happening between these people, because you have someone writing a beautifully constructed 5-paragraph essay talking about their thoughts on the situation, and then someone else responding with another essay. And so you get these really interesting dynamics between them, and having so much like written documentation of what's going on.
Because with all your documentation, it just does a lot of that just come from the community themselves saying like, here's the receipts that I've got.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get into a little bit about that on the next episode, but one last question I had for this one was, with your Patreon, you just mentioned there, you have like mini episodes on there where they're like a little bit like less edited, but they're just kind of like opinion pieces in a way.
Yeah, they're less edited and not scripted. And usually if they're researched, they're very like bare bones, minimally researched. They're not deep dives by any means, but yeah, I just released my 17th episode.
Oh, wow.
Last month. So I do one a month, and it's like 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how much I have to talk about any given thing. And it sort of just serves as a place for me to like talk about whatever I want to talk about in a less like high pressured way. And sometimes it's talking about like, you know, a story or a drama that I don't feel like is maybe enough for a full video, or maybe wasn't like a big enough deal for me to bring that much attention to it by making like a full main channel video about it. But it's still an interesting story that I want to talk about. Or the past few months, I've just been like sitting down and talking. So it's a combination of that, of me just being like, here's a loose topic for today. It's going to be about like being stressed and I'm just gonna talk and tell some stories about my life and chat. So
I fully copied you for my Patreon podcast, where I was not copying your topics or anything, but I was like, I just want to sit down.
Crochet me Zaddy copying my Patreon.
Yeah, next video. Crochet me Zaddy is a copy. Oh my god, I could only imagine the amount of like pattern stealing accusations you get sent through, being like, this person stole my design, and you're like, it's a raglan sweater, just leave it like alone.
No, I mean, I will say it's something I've been thinking about recently. I haven't seen many stories recently. I don't know if people are like not posting about it anymore because they realize that, I don't know if there's been enough conversation in the community that people are like, oh, maybe I should stop accusing people of copying me. But I really haven't seen as many stories recently as I used to. So
okay, well, we'll get onto that in the next episode, because I want to talk about that too. But let's finish this episode here. Don't forget to support us on Patreon.
Yeah,
and various other links. Yeah, Patreon podcast.
Thank you all for watching. Good
and
night.
Listening. Have a blessed day. Okay,
bye,
everyone.
And nice day. Okay, bye.